Ithaca is our small urban area. Tompkins County has 104,000 people. Our urban area is 53 or 54,000, and the rest is rural. And so let me share my screen, and we will talk about developing mobility as a service from the context of a small urban and a rural community. So let me go share, and we'll start. Screen share. Okay. This is Tompkins County, small urban area, Ithaca, and surrounded by rural. And let me get control of the I just have to get a little control here, and I'll be back. Okay. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, mobility as a service. We define it as combining multimodal trip planning, customer service, and bundled mobility services, meeting people's needs. One of the first questions people ask is, why Tompkins County? Well, we actually developed this idea, and I first presented it to our MPO in 2010. We are fortunate by having extensive mobility management programs, which I will discuss while going on. And we have extensive shared use services and a nonprofit mobility sector. And what I want to first mention by that is that our transit system, TCAT, which is Tompkins Consolidated Area Transit, is a nonprofit corporation. And that was done to enable Cornell to join the city of Ithaca and Tompkins County to consolidate 3 transit systems into one. That means that the county is the recipient of federal transit funds and state transit funds, and we have contracts with sub-recipients. And we have an extensive collaborative culture. I mean, that's our norm in our county and in how the mobility providers work together. So MOS, you know, what are the 5 aspects of MOS? First thing is mobility information. The second thing is we need to have a member organization that people would join MOS. Third thing is there's financial services that are provided. There are customer services that are provided, and there's an impetus to innovation that is critical, because basically we're looking to bundle the mobility services that people need for them to move. And when you have gaps in those services, or when you need more support to those services, you need to innovate. And so MOS is a way to centralize and crystallize that innovation. So we were very, very fortunate to be awarded a Integrated Mobility Innovation Grant by the FTA last year, in March actually, and to basically support development of our phase 1 for services. So I will go in to describe phase 1. I will then show you the fundamentals of phase 2, which are dealing with more of the financial services. And we'll wrap it up and talk about questions and everything, questions and answers. So I really pay attention to Theodore Roosevelt's quote, do what you can with what you have, where you are. And in our first phase, we're dealing with very critical items, and we're starting out where we are. And so let me just first talk about multimodal trip planning. We have inter-county bus service connecting Tompkins County from 3 other counties, neighboring counties. We have shared use services. Ithaca Car Share is the largest and longest operating from like 2007. Community nonprofit car share in New York State. And it's a great asset, and it was completely locally organized and executed in a collaborative way involving the university, but the nonprofit community and people interested in car share. We had Line, and Line was our bike share. And Line pulled out last March, in March 2020. But it left a taste for bike share. At one point in time, 1/3 of the county's population were Lime bike members. And so we had 350 Lime bikes in our community, and over 70 per year, it was like 70,000 trips on Lime bikes. But Lime told us they could only earn a profit 6 months out of the year, and so they left. Paratransit, we were very fortunate to consolidate interest in creating one community nonprofit paratransit provider who started out serving seniors and individuals with disabilities on wheelchair accessible vehicles. They started in 1978, and they have grown, and their portfolio has grown. We have 3 or 4 taxi companies, 1 major taxi company. We do have the TNCs, Lyft and Uber, but they are very devoted to both Cornell University and Ithaca College. Student use is their prime market. So I did discuss that there are 3 transit systems connecting with TCAT from Cortland County, Schuyler County, and Chemung County. But when you start off like, where are we with how can we integrate the like real-time information? Well, only the Chemung Transit bus and TCAT have real-time information at this point in time. Ithaca Car Share has real-time information where their cars are. And Lime had real-time information where their bikes were. Well, they're gone, but we do really want to bring back and we need to organize a nonprofit bike share. And those were the only providers who have, based on like, app accessible data to show the location and availability of buses, cars, and bikes. And when you're looking to enable people to do trip planning and integrate and have some confidence that that's going to work out, you just really need to have have data. Now the good thing is that Gadabout this year, by August, will have real-time information on their small buses, and that will be adding this next layer to enabling multimodal planning. So now I want to go and lead on to increasing supply of rural services. The first one is what's called a first and last mile service project, and it's not literally 1 mile, but it is basically how can people connect to a bus. And we do have some bus service that is very frequent. Very frequent means 17 trips a day as being very, very frequent. And TCAT and Gadabout and a technology company have worked together to create a pilot of first and last mile service. But it's really to develop different models of how can we have on-demand service connect people to buses. In addition, what we need to increase is the volunteer transportation services that we have. We have 9 right now. And we also need to increase the number of people who are doing carpooling and van pooling and all of this other stuff. So here with T-Connect, which is the first and the last mile, it is small buses connecting people to the TCAT buses. And we did work to create an app to enable that to happen and to deal with the communications necessary between the small bus and the large bus and the customers, that people will have confidence that they will be served. And we did pick this one rural village called Dryden because they have a great density, but it's also where our community college is located. So there's a lot of demand going to and from Dryden. We also have one of the mobility management programs that we have is called Way to Go. It's operated by Cornell Cooperative Extension under contract with the county, and they provide lots of information services, but they also provide organizational and service organizing services. And so they basically shepherd 9 volunteer transportation services that we have in the county, and start getting them thinking about how can they cooperate and how can they get their information out, and et cetera, et cetera. And as I'm sure you know, that when you're talking about rural areas, there's usually a great loyalty to community and community institutions and an idea of helping their neighbors, but how do you get these things organized? Well, we definitely realize that we do need to increase volunteer services. Rideshare is through the 511 program, and they set up a separate portal for us to do carpooling. And we need to spend a lot of time on this. And rideshare should not be passive. It needs active management. And so part of mobility as a service is going to be lending resources so we have active rideshare management. And the number one need for increasing the use of carpooling is the recruitment of drivers. And so one of the challenges we face going into a post-pandemic period is how are we really going to do this? What incentives can we provide to drivers, and take it from there. I had mentioned earlier that about the Way to Go program, and just really want to say that on the Way to Go website, if you go Way #2 and go Tompkins, you'll get to their website. They provide a comprehensive view of all of the mobility services in our county and in the immediate region. And they also include videos, because one of the things, they're not just providing information, but in part of the Cornell Cooperative Extension's philosophy and purpose, they provide community, public information and education for how to use all of the mobility services. And this is a program that the county began in collaboration with other providers back in 2009, and we've continued and have grown this effort. And when we have mobility as a service, when that's operating as a program, Way to Go will be providing education for how people access and take part of the mobility as a service program. Now, another aspect of our phase 1 are some smartphone apps. I discussed earlier that TCAT's First and Last Mile has a smartphone app that has been up and tested and operating in pilots and being refined. But we also need a smartphone app to enable multimodal trip planning and the types of customer services that we're going to offer. Now, in any given community, and we're one which is, we have like 28,000 college and university students out of a population of 104,000. And they are all very much attuned to their phone, much more than I am. And they're all attuned to using apps. So we need to use apps. But we're also going to have the apps be used in our call center, where people call in with their questions, call in to schedule trips, call in to get help. And we will be using the app, a similar app that will be available on the phone will be used in a call center that will answer questions and connect people to any of the services in our community, any of the mobility providers in the community. I imagine on the smartphone app is that people could use the app and basically press a button on the screen to make a phone call to any of the mobility providers. And when those offices close, as they do, sometimes much earlier than you would anticipate, if people have problems, they would talk with the main call center and get help. We'll talk about that in a minute. So multimodal trip up planning app. It includes all mobility providers who want to cooperate on having information accessible to everybody, with phone numbers by just making one push of a button on the screen to go and call those operators. Phase 2 of our mobility as a service deals with financial services and customer service, although we have actually moved up some of our customer support into phase 1. I will discuss this shortly. So I mentioned before, way to go, and our family of mobility services. And here, what I'm showing you is a graphic that basically shows all of the mobility services in our community that people can access, and everything from walking, biking, when we had bike share, public transit, sharing rides, renting a car or being part of car share, or hailing a taxi or Uber and a Lyft, where they can call for information or go on a website to find it. The specialized services, for example, Gadabout, and other programs that we have, including FISH, which is a primary volunteer transportation, a volunteer transportation service to in and outside of county medical appointments and other services. So we have this family of services, and the problem, or not the problem, to organize mobility as a service, we came up with a menu of what does it cost to access all of these services. And what I am showing here on this table is basically about 16 options for how people can access, like buying bus tickets. So for example, TCAT has an annual pass of $450. You can get all types of different passes. What we found earlier is that people, especially limited income, is that they never had $450 to buy a bus pass. And in fact, they were spending the like full retail price of for each bus trip, and they could never afford to get a very significant discount by having an annual pass. So one of the things that we are basically offering is basically helping people finance an annual pass at no interest. Ithaca Car Share, these are averages. There's 2 different plans that works out for $8 an hour or $11 an hour to use a car share. There's different taxi trips, but people can make taxi rides. We throw in here things that don't, they're essential services, but they're ancillary to the service being provided. So for people who are biking, what would a cost of, could I finance bicycle maintenance using vouchers and pay for those vouchers over time? Can I buy an electric bicycle over time? And then for people who are volunteer drivers or who are part of a carpool, but they will assist other people, which is what the carpool does, how can they gain some revenue for reimbursement for miles to go and like do that? It's a different way of looking at services. How can people help their neighbor get to a medical appointment and have the expense of that in-county travel be compensated to them at like 30 cents per mile, or outside the county, we pay the IRS rate. So looking ahead, the last thing listed here is called the guaranteed ride service. And we want to implement a guaranteed ride program that when people have a trip failure, similar to if you are getting like AAA roadside assistance, if you're a member of AAA and your car dies, AAA doesn't query you saying, well, did you get your oil changed? What do you mean you ran out of gas? They're not there to levy blame or make the problem that occurred obvious to you. They're there to help you. And so we would have a guaranteed ride program that would essentially rescue people from trip failure. And I understand that in a large urban area, this seems to be incredibly daunting, but in a smaller urban rural community, this is a type of service that will be readily used and people are interested in having. So what I wanted to show is I have two examples, one from in a small city household, a budget for a mobility budget for the year. And I'm showing in a small city household that there's one car, 2 adults, 1 youth. And so they figure they may use $900 worth of car share. They need 2 bus passes. Maybe they used a taxi a number of times. They use bicycle maintenance. They like the guaranteed ride program. And there's a cost for the membership and member support. And your total annual cost would be $1,960, which is a monthly payment of $163. And so the mobility as a service program would collect that $163 per month, similar to how people buy electricity on the budget billing cycle. And it's financed monthly and reconciled quarterly. We have a rural household. This is our next example, which is a lower income rural household with 1 car, 2 adults, and 1 child. And there is nothing available close to them to walk to. So here in their budget, they have a van pool membership for $1,500 per year. They have a car share and a discount plan because of their income. They have some taxi use. They pay for guaranteed ride. They pay for support. But if they volunteer as a driver, they can earn some revenue. And I'm showing that there's $400 worth of revenue they could possibly earn in a year. And we have an employer, Cornell University, that would pay a subsidy for people to be in the van pool of $600 per year. And so the total is $1,331, or a monthly payment of $111. And that basically replaces the need for a car. So let me come here. So coming back to these 5 elements, we will have mobility information, member organization, financial service, customer services, and innovation. And with that, I will stop, and I'm happy to take any questions, and actually probably let you catch your breath, and then have any questions. Be very happy to answer for you. Thank you. I will unshare. How do I do that?
Right, while we're waiting to see if there are any questions, I think I remember you had said something about using the grant funds that you had received to put together this mobility as a service project for something to do with COVID vaccines. And I don't remember if it was, if you were what you were transporting, if it was people or vaccines.
Well, what we are doing now is that, and when I say we, I mean our whole mobility community. We came together in January to work with the health department and work out how we're going to get people to vaccinations. And this has been rolled out as the vaccination centers have opened, as the supply has increased, and as the number of people who are eligible to receive vaccines has increased also. So we settled on that the transit service we have is really useful to connect people in our urban area to a mall which had a former Sears store, which is the county's main vaccination site. And they run buses there every 15 minutes. And so that's a really good rapid way for people who are in the immediate downtown area or up on Cornell campus or Ithaca College to get a bus going to the site. We also have about 5 or 6 pharmacies, and then Wegmans has vaccinations and located elsewhere in the county. And our paratransit operator, Gadabout, takes people of all ages to their vaccination appointment. We also worked with the intercity bus company, Our Bus, to provide access to the 2 state sites in Binghamton and in Syracuse. And that is taking about 30 people per day to appointments. So by coming to end, the Way to Go program helps promote all of this. The health department promotes all of this. We have connections in through the human services community with very specific information that when they consult with their clients, they can help them get an appointment, or they can assist them with getting a ride. So that is what we have going now. And this is all being paid for with the CRISA funding that was passed in December 27th, that became law then.
All right, CRISA is the COVID-related funding.
The second of three. Yes.
You also mentioned with the app that you had, where you have the different providers, different entities that are providing transportation, and that you made it so that the app had phone numbers in there so people could click on a provider and it would automatically make a phone call. And then you said, there's office hours, and sometimes, it might be if you were to call after office hours ended, that it goes to a call center.
Yes, and so this is what we are working on now. We're working on the app now, and we're working on the call center now. All of our call center functions before were very good at providing information, but they weren't really there to really be able to troubleshoot and provide the type of assistance we're talking about. That and it seems that the mobility providers, many of them, they effectively sign off at different times in the early evening. And even though they might have buses out on the street, main office is shut. So we have a very large percentage of our population comes from other counties. And we really need to provide this safety net to assist people who have problems. And that's what I've described it as, like roadside assistance for everything other than driving yourself in your own car. People come out, I just missed the bus. That's the last bus of the day. How am I going to get back to Cortland? How am I going to get back to here? Well, similar to AAA, we'll have a program where you can buy assistance at an assistance level, like $30. You get 5 emergency rides. And then, the call center would contact the taxi or Lyft or a volunteer driver who has volunteered to provide that help with a car share car. And we actually have this. And they'll get a ride. And when we explained that with our test market, they were just relieved. Because they all know of people where something wrong has happened at some point in time. And unlike a larger urban area, you don't have this huge amount of choice and resources. But you also don't have the attitude that everybody is left to their own devices. So we know There's people who, you know, struggle with life every single day, and we will provide a way for them to get back home. And we feel we can economically do it and logistically do it.